Gaza is still in crisis. Your aid is already moving. A father carries a package. Inside, food and clean water. Only $250 reminds them they are not forgotten. Keep aid moving in Gaza.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of A Voice for Every Human, the Human Appeal official podcast. My name is Asil Borno and I'm delighted to be your host. And today we are interviewing Ammar Alkhateeb, who is the Emergency Response Manager and a long-time Human Appeal staffer. And we're so excited to be speaking to him. He is actually not here in the studio. He is actually speaking to us from abroad. And so we're doing this in a virtual setting. I'll be speaking to him on Teams, and you'll be getting to hear from him firsthand about his experiences. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Ammar. How are you?
Alaikum assalam, Asil. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who is watching our podcast.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. We're really happy to be able to speak with you today because you have been, with Human Appeal for a while. And I actually wanted to sort of get a background about, how do you become an emergency response manager with Human Appeal? What was your journey?
Okay, thank you very much. So I started my journey in the humanitarian sector about 10 years ago. I started working with many of international NGOs in the UK. And then I joined Human Appeal 3 years ago as a Global Emergency Response Manager. I work with many of the countries. I work with many teams in Human Appeal field offices responding to the emergency in Morocco, and then moving to another big emergency like Gaza, and many other emergencies during my journey with Human Appeal. So working as an emergency response manager is not an easy job because you are always and constantly responding to difficult situations on the ground. You are hearing the needs on the ground from the field team. I myself have been deployed to many of the emergencies, and I hear difficult stories from people who lost their beloved ones. And being in the position to help those families and those affected population is one of the blessings that we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this opportunity. And we continue to serve humanity as much as we can, inshallah.
Inshallah. So we have a lot of young, aspiring humanitarians that tune into this show. If I am somebody who is, a fresh graduate, or somebody who's thinking about what to study, how does one become an emergency response manager? What does that journey look like?
Yeah, I would always advise the youngsters to start by volunteering. To volunteer with Human Appeal and other charity organizations, humans, to understand the needs and understand how the teams are working together in the humanitarian sector. Understand the terms, understand how we help those who are in needs, and then gradually choose where do you think yourself fitting within this community, within this sector, because there are different types of roles that each one can find himself or herself fitting in the fundraising sector, in the emergency, in the programs, different sectors. So I encourage everyone to volunteer and test and see what and where they are fitting. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives everyone skills that can be applied to help the humanity.
Yeah, so you could be an engineer, you could be somebody who's going into the medical field and then decide you're going to use those skills to go into humanitarian work. And that's I've seen that in my 10 plus years also in the humanitarian field, that you have a lot of people who maybe they owned a business and then decided, I actually, sold the business. I just want to focus on fundraising for charities. So alhamdulillah, and we're so blessed to have you with us. So let's just get started. I want to understand how does the team practically coordinate logistics on a scale that is massive in an active conflict zone. We're talking about places like Sudan, like Gaza, like what we're seeing now in Lebanon. How do we coordinate logistics for something like that? Venezuela, right? Like you hear there's an earthquake, there is mass displacement happening. You, as somebody who's responding to something like an emergency like this, what are some of the thought process that you have to go through when you're like, okay, this is how we're going to respond?
Yeah, to be honest, in the emergency or disaster, the coordination in this kind of scale and the conflict zones is never fully controlled. It's about constant adaptation. So us as emergency team and who are working in a disaster, we break things down into smaller and decentralized our work with the team who are responding to the emergencies. So, for example, I'll give an example in Gaza, for example, is one of the biggest emergencies that happened. We have team on the ground who are decentralized. So they are working in specific areas. We distribute them into specific areas and specific sectors and programs. And they are trusted to take decisions quickly because the need in the emergency is always evolving. So Human Appeal, for example, in Gaza has been on the ground since 1991. We have, alhamdulillah, heavy local network suppliers and drivers, community members who understand the environment that is on the ground, and they help us to navigate and help us to having a flexible kind of planning. So our team are constantly in communication between themselves and with the local communities. So we are having scenarios. What if, for example, if this access is open, if this access is closed, our planning is continuously changing. So at the end of the day, we reach the population and the people who needs us most, and we deliver the aid to them. So the coordination is not about being perfectly organized. It's about being systemized, the system, and keeping the system moving, and adaptation as well. So we adapt our plans accordingly. We had, for example, one of our projects were the flower distribution project, and we have been given the no, we got the signal. No, we got the signal that the flower is going to be unavailable very soon. So our team continuously taking and getting these signals, and we secure the quantities of flour that we could put our hands on. While we distribute these flowers, we have seen that the families or most of the families cannot bake because they bake using the ovens, which needs firewood, for example, and the prices of the firewood were extremely expensive. So we have adapted our program to provide bread bundles already baked to those families. So this is the way of flexibility. Our team on the ground is always getting the signals. If there is a shortage in supply, we, as much as we can, put our hands and buy these supplies and adapt our programs to match the needs that people are facing. And this comes by experience, comes by responding to many emergencies, so they understand how to be flexible and responding to these needs as effective and as efficient as possible.
So that sounds to me that relationships and understanding the communities that you're actually trying to respond to is going to be very, very important. And having relationships that you can sort of count on to problem solve with you. You know, this whole, you're giving people flour, but they have nowhere to bake it. So what do? This is like a constant problem solving in an environment that does not provide a lot of resources for you. I'm curious, and you don't have to answer this because it's not part of the questions that we agreed on, but I am curious, what do you do if it's an environment where you don't have pre-existing relationships and you don't know, what the challenges are going to be? Because like the problem solving, it may take a lot of experience with that particular region. But I keep thinking to the most recent is Venezuela. So Venezuela, like their major emergency right now is that they don't have enough tools to even excavate people from under the rubble. And you have over, I think, like 200,000 people who are unaccounted for just because they're under rubble. What do you do in a situation like that? And if you can't answer that, we can skip this question. But I'm just curious.
No. So always in the emergencies situations, the NGOs, the INGOs are coordinating between each other. So whenever there is an emergency and an organization is ready to respond, we coordinate with the other peer organizations locally and internationally. So we see with the authorities as well who can offer what. So for example, if Human Appeal has an access to tools, they can offer these tools to whoever has equipments. For example, if we have an access to fuel, we can provide this fuel to the equipment guys who will use this to put the fuel in the equipments and taking the tools from the other INGOs. So the coordination is very important, and the sectors, the clusters as well, cluster meetings helps in that. So the meeting with under the umbrella of the UN, where the partners are meeting and discussing these challenges and helping each other. This shorten the time and makes the community, the humanitarian community response more effective and more easy to reach those who needs us the most. So working in isolation is never an option. As an organization, we have to work in coordination and collaboration so we can help those who need us the most.
Yeah, I mean, that really just goes back to relationships and how important they are, right? You cannot be coordinating with people who you don't talk to. So this whole idea, I mean, I keep thinking about the future and how AI will help in our humanitarian sector, but it will eventually come back to and boil down to human relationships. No matter how efficient AI is going to make us, for example, it's still going to take that relationship of, hey, I know that Ammar has soup and I have spoons. So we can, and AI maybe will help us identify that. But if I've never had a relationship with this cluster, it may be much more difficult to coordinate. So it's fascinating to me, and I think it's fabulous that we are in these kind of relationships. That's very important. So can you walk us through the decisions and the risks taken to ensure that those 11.5 million hot meals that we were serving to the communities in Gaza that have really relied on this, that they never stop flowing, because we made this commitment to this community, and it has been a very volatile almost 3 years for our communities in Gaza. So what kind of decision making are you doing to be able to say, irregardless, we're going to keep going?
To be honest, to have this amount of hot meals delivered in Gaza, this has been always a challenge that our teams are facing day by day in Gaza. However, to be honest, I have to give a credit to our CEO, Dr. Mohammed Ashmawi, who took the decision that we will never stop providing hot meals in Gaza. We will deliver high quality hot meals to the people in Gaza, the same kind of quality of hot meals that we eat in our homes. As much as we can provide it in Gaza, we will continue to deliver it to the people. And he has took this decision since day one. So we never, alhamdulillah, stopped delivering high quality hot meals in Gaza, despite the challenges that we have faced. So every day our team are continuing delivering, asking, do we continue or do we stop if it's not safe, for example, to deliver? And stopping has never been an option, because we know that many families are relying on our meals that we deliver to them every day. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Also, we deliver to hospitals, we deliver to vulnerable kind of people and communities that have made use of our hot meals campaign. However, there are some challenges that we face on the operational side, for example, that we have to cope with, and we have to adjust our plans accordingly. So from the operational side, for example, we reduce, for example, the how much we store in one location to avoid if there is a large loss happening, so we don't lose our items. We also relocate or adjust where we work to depends on the situation on the ground and how safely the locations we work in. And one of the biggest challenge in our campaign that continued for 3 years is the supply challenges. So the ingredients of the hot meals itself, be it the fuel, be it the clean water, the meat and chicken as well. So whenever there is a meat and chicken that enters Gaza, we have always been adding meat and chicken to the hot meals that we distributed in Gaza. If not, we use the vegetables instead, putting some vegetable protein to our meals. The teams are always communicating to see where are the safest routes, where people are gathering. Plans can always change in response to these kind of information. So it's never been an easy. That the team and the staff has been always working under very, very difficult conditions and situations, monitoring the situation and delivering to the needy people were always our goal. So alhamdulillah, we made a very good alhamdulillah, very good campaign. Reaching this number of high quality hot meals was never easy. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for us.
Alhamdulillah. This made me think of a few things. First, the fact that our Human Appeal staff that are in Gaza are in the same genocide. It's not like they're in a different place. They're not getting helicoptered in from somewhere. They're actually living the same conditions of lack of electricity, lack of shelter, lack of safe routes to go through. Many have been displaced themselves several times, and yet making that decision that we will just adapt no matter what. We will keep going, and we will keep going. And that talks a lot about the sumud, the resilience of the people of Gaza. And it also talks about the emotional toll. I mean, you just describing this to me, and I'm from Gaza, so I have family members there, and understanding that their situation is not something that they ever get to take a break from. We don't only do meals. We also have medical staff that are on the ground that are doing this work. Can you speak to the physical and emotional toll our medical staff who are working with these essential medical supplies that we try to get into the Strip day in and day out? We talked a lot about the challenges of getting food in, but there's a challenge to get everything in. I mean, there's a challenge to get tents in. There's a challenge to get baby formula in. What happens to a medical staffer that is, they know that they could save a person in front of them had they had the right supplies or the right tools? What happens to them?
Yeah, speaking about the medical side of it is actually very immense, and it's very difficult from the physical and the emotional side of it. You can imagine the doctors who have been working in around the clock treating people who has been injured and flowing to the hospitals with no equipments, with very little supplies and shortage in everything. They are heroes, to be honest. Specifically, the doctors, we have to commit that they have done a very good work in a very difficult situations. They have been working long hours in a very difficult conditions. Again, there were a shortage of supplies. There were a limited equipment. They have been using basic things. Even the anesthesia hasn't been available in Gaza, and it's not yet being allowed to enter Gaza. So just imagine making operations without anesthesia. This is very difficult for them from a physical and emotional. And just again, imagine that they are not only treating patients, they are treating their community, they are treating their friends, their neighborhoods, their family members who are also being affected and treated In 2025, for example, we had makeshift clinics, and alhamdulillah, our makeshift clinics has been always ongoing, never stopped, alhamdulillah, operating, providing primary healthcare services to the patients. Most of the times you find the kind of illnesses are linked to the lack of hygiene items. And this affecting the medical staff themselves, putting them at risk, because they are the infection can easily transfer to them. So lack of medicine. So at many points of time, the medicine were not allowed to enter Gaza. Alhamdulillah, Human Appeal has at many occasions entered tons of medicines through Jordan, through helicopters, through planes. So we have entered through Jordan, alhamdulillah, tons of medical aid to our makeshift clinics. And this is what makes the makeshift clinics actually still running, because of these periods where borders were open and we were be able to provide these supplies.
Yeah, and we know that usually it's very short windows that they'll allow certain crossings, certain openings to be, and then it's not even guaranteed. One day it's going to be open, they tell you it's going to be open, and then the next day it's not open. So it's very difficult, and it makes me wonder, Ammar, when were you in Gaza? I'd like to just pick your brain a little bit about your own experience.
And I haven't been actually in Gaza. It hasn't been allowed for us to go to Gaza, but we have been always monitoring with the team and managing from abroad. The team is on the ground, but we have been not allowed to enter Gaza, unfortunately.
SubhanAllah. When you're in an environment like this, having an outlet to feel like you're just human. We talked a lot about our food distributions, our hot meal distributions. We're talking about our medical assistance, but there's a whole other component about this. And it's about creating safe spaces for spiritual gatherings and spiritual and community entertainment. And I'm wondering, what do we do as Human Appeal for in that sector specifically, especially for those who've been displaced multiple times, and how does it impact their resilience?
So Human Appeal during the response to this emergency, we established makeshift masjids. So the families who are displaced, they have lost their homes, they have lost the masjids that were around them. The masjids is the place where the community connect the families, and the prayers are conducted in the masjids. So they have lost everything. So establishing a makeshift tent in the masjid was not just about performing the prayers, but it gets the sense of the normal life, that it's going back again. So they have not lost their life, but we are again gaining the normal life. So establishing the makeshift masjid wasn't just about the physical structure. It's a place where they reconnect, they pray together, they talk, they support each other. They pray the Eid in the masjid. They prayed Taraweeh time during Ramadan as well. We organized, for example, in 2025, we organized grand iftars, and one of them was in the north, where one of the masjids was established. And at this time, while they are praying the Maghrib, there was no electricity, so it was dark inside the masjid. So the people started to use the flash of their phones, and they completed their prayers, and they talked to each other, they laughed, they took and they eat their iftar after that. So this is the basic normal life that they have lost in Gaza, and the masjid is getting back these again, the connecting people together again. So giving this kind of sense of normal life and the spirituality again to people who lost everything actually.
Yeah, one of the things that I love most about Human Appeal is that we do host these grand iftars in Gaza. I know, many of our sector here in the US and in the West, we host grand iftars for fundraising, for getting our donors to be encouraged to donate. But truly, like, we don't need a grand iftar. We're grand iftaring every day in our homes,
Yes.
alhamdulillah. But just seeing that, we're really putting an effort into getting communities together, making sure that they're getting full fortified meals that are actually nutritious and will be able to help them sustain their lives, especially during Ramadan when it's so difficult. I really love that Human Appeal does this. Um, Outside of, food and medical and this community spaces, we also understand that 300,000 children have been outside of school now for almost 3 years. Coming up this fall will be the fourth year that students in Gaza do not have functioning classrooms, functioning schools. It's why one of the first advocacy campaigns that I really wanted to pitch for through Human Appeal was to make sure that we are telling legislators that the educational experiences of children in Gaza has all but expired and that they have a duty to help us make sure that they have the opportunity. Things from removing rubble to actually getting student supplies into Gaza. And one of the things that Human Appeal does is that we do a back to school kit, and we make sure that, even in the tiny makeshift camps that people will conduct a classroom, that they have this kit. Tell me more about this kit, why we do this, and sort of what it means for these families.
Yeah. So actually, back to school kit is one of my favorite kind of aid and support that we provide to families and for kids, because it's not just about the supply. It's about, again, getting the kids back to the normal life. Their life has not ended because of the war, but we continue. Lives continue, and their future is bright. So this is what the back to school kit is providing, because as you can see, many children during the war, they have taken rules that is not a children role. So instead of going to school, instead of learning, instead of education, they stand in long queues in the kitchens, securing a meal or carrying a jerry can to collect a water. This is not a child role. So they have dropped out of schools. There was no schools, so they have forgot, some of them, they have forgot what education even feels like. Simple things like using stationery or going to class, they have lost this feeling. So this is the meaning of providing them with a makeshift school or back to school kit. This is the life that you are reconnecting. You are getting back your life. Again, in 2025, back to school, we targeted the orphan children. We distributed school kits, included bags, notebooks, supplies, and you can imagine the happiness on the faces of the children and the mothers as well, because before the war, they before the school, the families, the father and the mother take the child to the market and buy for them the stationaries and the school supplies, which stopped after the war. So when this is back to them, and at some point we provided them with vouchers, so they go to the market and buy what they need from the market directly. So the feeling is back again, that they buy from the market. It has been fantastic feedback, alhamdulillah, and the families and the mothers were very happy of us providing this kind of support to their kids. That's why education is very important in emergencies. Not just, again, as you mentioned, it's not about food and water, but it's also about education during emergencies. Learning is not just about the learning itself, but it gives the dignity, it gives the protection, it gives the psychosocial kind of recovery. So the message that we give to the child and their family, that their future is still matters to us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a lifeline. And I think Palestinians have always known this, that, irregardless of displacement, irregardless of what happens to us, our degrees are the things that end up saving us. Our education, our ability to learn and to be useful in whatever society we get dropped into. And for the people in Gaza specifically, their ability to adapt comes from being able to have that education, like being very, very serious about their education, because without it, how do you live in a place that provides you so little resources to do basic things? But when you're educated, you come up with solutions. SubhanAllah.
Exactly.
I really love this program, and I'm so glad we do it. What does the next phase of this emergency response look like? I mean, we see no end in sight. I know we've been supposedly under a ceasefire for the last year, but we know that over 1,000 Palestinians in Gaza have already been killed. We see that there's a lot of, closures of humanitarian corridors that continue to be blocked. Just a couple, maybe it was a month ago, where there was nothing coming in or out for a whole 24 hours. And I was it was very stressful during that time. How are we adapting as Human Appeal? How are we planning for the next phase?
Yeah. So Human Appeal slogan is, we are here as long as it takes. So we're helping people to move towards the stability again. We're setting our programs now to help people to sustain and towards the resilience, as you mentioned. So we are now bridging the gap between the immediate relief and the early recovery. So we are moving towards the early recovery phase. We're still responding to the urgent needs, which is food, water, and healthcare. However, we are focusing on to the early recovery, which includes, for example, solid waste management, which becomes very critical. You can just imagine the waste accumulating in a small area, in a very condensed, crowded areas, which creates a serious kind of public health risks on the population. So we have already cleared around 2,000 tons of waste, which is a disease prevention. Alhamdulillah, Human Appeal has done so, and we have also moved some of the families from the tents into a kind of rehabilitated homes, temporary rehabilitation of some of the homes that can be inhabitable. So we moved some of the families into some of these homes. So they have moved from the tents into a temporary shelter. We're also focusing on kind of the sustainability of the wash and the water systems. So our water intervention has been always relied on the trucking. So we move the trucks to support the shelters. However, we have recently started delivering or establishing 5 small desalination units established near to vulnerable areas like hospitals, where we can then start to systemize and sustain the kind of wash and water facilities to those hospitals and vulnerable communities. We also expanding in programs like livelihood and kind of community support. We have established one of the programs that we have done was helping women to produce their own bakeries. So we helped them to establish an oven, and using these ovens to produce their own bakeries, pizzas, and bakeries, and they sell this to families, so they can get some of the income to their families. These kind of programs, which is sustainable, providing some sort of income to the families, this is where we are going towards, until inshallah the borders are again open normally, and then we can inshallah move into the more sustainable kind of programs inshallah.
MashaAllah, it sounds like we're doing huge projects in Gaza that will require a lot of support from our supporters of Human Appeal. And so I'm hoping that, our supporters and our listeners are hearing from, directly from somebody who's working pretty regularly with our colleagues on the ground in Gaza, talking about so many of the different programs that we are doing and so many of the things that we are planning for the future, and our commitment to stay on the ground in Gaza for as long as it takes. I mean, that just, puts a lot of relief in my heart to know that, my members of my family will be able to rely on Human Appeal to stay the ground for as long as it needs to be. So, mashallah. Ammar, I cannot thank you enough for being with us today. I know what an emotional toll this must be taking on you to be working in this particular emergency response in Gaza. It has been very difficult for all of our communities and all of our family members, but for somebody that has to, get reports day in and day out and to help continue to coordinate logistics for such an expansive emergency, it is very, very difficult. So we really appreciate you and we appreciate your time. For our listeners and for our donors, we're going to link 2 links below this video. The first will be our advocacy campaign. If you want to see more children of Gaza have access to education, please make sure that you take our action. It's a maybe 1-minute process to get signed up and to actually send the letter to your legislator. And then the second will be a link to donate to our Gaza emergency response. As you can see, our program is ongoing and we will not stop, and we will be there until we are no longer needed, inshallah. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. This podcast is only as successful as our listeners make it. So that means I need you to subscribe. If you have not pushed that subscription button at the bottom, please make sure you do. That way you'll get an alert every time there's a new episode. Please do share it with your family and friends if this has been useful to you at all. And I always like to, hear back from our listeners. So if you can leave a comment, if you want us to do different kinds of episodes, or if you want to learn something different about Human Appeal's work, please let me know. We are always here and ready to inform our supporters and our donors and our advocates about exactly the kind of work that we are doing. Thank you again for being with us. And until next time, salam alaikum.